Hey LinkedIn, welcome to our Leadership Speak series part 3, the future back strategy for today's visionaries. My guest today is someone I have no doubt will leave us with insights that will drive introspection in a lot of us on how we should be running our businesses, including our people, policies, and processes. I am truly pleased to welcome Anand Kripalu for the second time on Leadership Speak series in his new avatar, that of MD and Global CEO at Blackstone-backed EPL.
No, thank you so much, Arnab. Pleasure to be back chatting with you again.
And today's topic is about how leaders are approaching their future back strategies that encompass the changes they need to make today in order to kind of achieve those goals tomorrow. We've seen how you have always had a future back mindset, right from your days at Cadbury's to Diageo to EPL, where sustainability and responsible selling and packaging has been top of mind for you. Can you share your thoughts in terms of the sustainability you've been striving to achieve throughout these different industries? You know, you've been with FMCGs, Alcobev, packaging. How different is it? First of all, is it different? And if it is, how so?
I suppose it's not fundamentally different. The nuances are obviously different in terms of what is relevant to what kind of an industry. So if I go back to my Cadbury era, when we thought about sustainability, we thought of two aspects of it, sustainability of the business and sustainability for our consumers. Now, sustainability for the industry there was about cocoa farming and planting trees. And there were years when we planted as Cadbury 7 million cocoa trees in 1 year. What we did with that is that we improved the return per hectare for the farmer. We saved foreign exchange because otherwise cocoa was imported from West Africa. And we lowered the cost of cocoa for our business. So it was win-win-win. Win for the farmer, win for the environment, right? And win for the company. Now, from a consumer standpoint, now everyone loves a bit of sugar, but everyone knows that treating yourself for that moment of indulgence is important. Everybody needs that break. Everyone needs that moment of indulgence, right? You can't be a Puritan all the time.
Yeah.
So we used to say, we encourage people to indulge, but indulge in a responsible way. Be treat wise. So enjoy your treats, but be wise about it. Cut to my time in Diageo, right? And there were again two aspects of this. One was the business itself, and really there, the future vision for that business was to prove that people can do business in alcohol with the highest standards of ethics, governance, and transparency. Alcohol had a tarnished reputation as an industry, and our objective was to prove that when I stepped off from there, the legacy I would leave behind is that people would not shy away from joining that industry and say, hey, I don't want to go and get tainted there. But there again, alcohol again is something that you can choose to enjoy as part of an overall healthy lifestyle, right? In which case you're using alcohol properly. Or we all know that there is a dark side to it too, where you could abuse alcohol. And that does lead to health problems and broken homes. So the whole thing there was to educate consumers, right? To celebrate, but celebrate responsibly. So I suppose there's an angle for sustainability in, whatever you do. And if I can just take that question onto EPL, which is my current assignment as well, we again have two lenses to it, right? This is a packaging business, it's a plastics business, and it's a B2B business, okay? So our first job is to provide sustainable and recyclable solutions to our customers and help them to achieve their environment commitments that they have gone and made, right? And I have no doubt that being the most sustainable packaging company in the world is the vision that we have set, which will create a sustainable source of competitive advantage. But equally, we need to be sustainable as an organization.
Absolutely.
What's our carbon footprint like? What kind of energy are we using? Are we, using fossil fuels? Are we using clean energy? Are we wasting water in our plants, right? So I suppose there is the angle of within the company and what's customer or consumer facing in all these, little caselets, if you like.
What has changed? Why has suddenly business become, has it developed a conscience, or is it driven by something else? Why are investors now focusing on beyond just business and profits?
I think what has become clear is this, that if you stand for responsibility, for sustainability,
Mhm.
but don't have business results, nobody will touch you. If you have business results, but don't have sustainability, increasingly people will not touch you. You need both these conditions to be met. And I think the reason is that, many of these big investors, their
Mhm.
source of funds, right, are pension funds and, places like that. And basically, this whole thing about being responsible
Mm.
has really become an important aspect, because people don't want their money to go behind things that are going to damage the environment. And I think equally consumers, by the way,
Mhm.
want to know today what good is the company doing, and they want to only buy products and brands from companies who are responsible, who don't abuse the environment to make profit, but work in harmony with the environment. So gone are the days when you could exploit everything around you, the people, the environment, the climate, and make profit.
Yeah.
I think people will reject you outright, right? And the reality in this is you may make something in the short term, but in the long term, you will be extinct. And I think this realization has become really, really clear. So if you want to be a sustainable company, a going concern, and be present decades or centuries into the future, you've got to also do the right thing. And, people have discovered that doing good is also good for business. So doing good is not bad for business.
Yeah.
Doing good is good for business. And I think that realization has come where there are sustainable solutions to also grow your business and grow your profits,
Love
versus
that.
wrong ways to do it, which probably was the way in which many corporations operated in the past.
Love that. Love that. I'm wondering if it has some sort of a connection to what we are witnessing globally as well as in India, this great resignation and great reshuffle. Do you think this has some sort of a connection to this as well? Or how do you see this phenomena that we are faced with suddenly?
So, obviously there was pent up demand, 2 years, markets were shut, businesses, I mean, really, really were challenged. A lot of people were laid off. A lot of people lost livelihood, right? And sadly, a lot of people lost lives too. Things really beginning to open up, right? And there's pent up demand, and a lot of people are trying to catch up for lost time. And therefore, you tend to start picking up talent that's trained and ready, and offering them opportunities.
Hmm.
Now, what happens very often is the storyline that you get from the HR guys or the candidate who's leaving saying, I've got a lot more money and that's the reason I'm going. I think the important thing for management really is to recognize that people join companies but leave managers, right? So very often you join a company because it's a great company, but you leave because your manager didn't create the environment, the culture, and the engagement that kept you motivated and committed to the organization, right? And the first thing that happens sometimes is when you're unhappy, you start looking. If you're happy, you just eyes down, you're beavering away, doing what the job in the company wants. So I think the big lesson in this is the only way to combat, right, what's happening, as far as the volatility of talent is concerned, right, is to create the right culture and engagement that keep people with you. And of course, you have to pay them fair salaries and competitive salaries. That goes without saying. I would say antibiotic or antidote if you want to keep your people with you.
Do you think that there is a connection with, how do you imbibe a culture that is not just attractive for its employees, but it's also sustainable for business in the long run?
So, what I would say is this. So, first of all, I'm a great believer that culture drives performance, not the other way around. I'm a great believer in the fact that culture is the only sustainable source of competitive advantage, because people can copy lots of your things, they can poach your people, but they can't replicate your culture. It's something that's very unique to an organization. And I'll tell you one more thing: culture is tested during tough times, during COVID. I can never forget the infestation crisis of Cadbury way back in 2003, 2004. At that time, this was before I joined the company, but the company already had a great culture. Nobody jumped ship. They stayed and they said, I will fix it because this is my company.
Wow.
And I need to fix this crisis versus jumping ship and going somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And we had many crises in Diageo as well, right? On multiple occasions, right? And the question is, do you have the right culture where people stay committed and engaged? And for me, therefore, a lot of business leaders chart out a vision for their business, an ambition for their business, a strategy for the business. For me, one of the most important things that a leader must do is to have a very clear view of what kind of company are you trying to build. And very often I say, it's easy to get the org structure right, fill the boxes with the right people and so on, right? The hard part is the soft part, which is the culture of the organization, the kind of company that you want to build. And leaders must have a vision of the kind of company that they are trying to build. And finally, when you walk away from an organization, people forget the numbers you delivered. They only remembered the kind of company you built and how you touched the people. That is your only legacy, finally, right? The numbers are in the archives and in the history books and they're forgotten, right? That's how important culture is. And I think it is the antidote for a lot of the ailments that many companies are actually grappling with.
I love that. Culture is the antidote for a lot of the ailments that companies are kind of grappling with today. And I think the message, that's something that sticks out from my conversation with you today, is really you can do good and still be successful. Doing good does not mean that your business will suffer. Wonderful talking to you, Anand. Thank you so much for joining us. And I'm sure our audience is going to be thrilled with some of the inputs, as usual, incremental from your side. Thank you for joining.
I hope so. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.